Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. Real quick, I just want to thank everybody for the last video that I uploaded. The support on that was really awesome. It was really great. I still haven't gotten to look at all the comments on it, but you know, it's appreciative, man. I'm glad when I upload videos like that, people actually watch it and listen to what I have to say, because a lot of times I upload videos, man, sometimes it like aren't Pacers related or even basketball related or whatever, and like nobody usually watches them. So the idea that one got like 400 views and was really had a lot of likes on it too, it just means a lot. But I wanted to talk about something that I was very shocked about, and that's the idea that Miles Bridges went back to the Charlotte Hornets on a 3-year, $75 million deal. And I gotta be honest, if this was the price for Miles Bridges, I don't know why other teams, like teams that need young, budding talent, didn't jump on this. You know, Miles Bridges, if I'm correct, don't quote me, but I think he's 26 years old. I could be wrong. But yeah. Oh no, wait, that's Miles McBride. Wrong Miles. Miles Bridges. He is 26 years old, and you know, I look at a lot of teams around the league that had some cap space, and I'm kind of wondering why they didn't go after this guy. Teams like for example, the Los Angeles Clippers, right? They lost Paul George, and I was like, okay, like they lost Paul George, but that frees up a lot of cap space for them, right? They went out and signed Kevin Porter Jr. They brought back Nicholas Batum. Miles Bridges, 3 years, $75 million is $25 million a year, and he's a young guy. He's a guy that I think if he was playing with Kawhi Leonard would learn a whole lot, and it would give you something for the future. You know, that's something you didn't have in Paul George, and it's crazy to find out like the whole reason Paul George didn't go back to the Clippers is because they wouldn't give him a no trade clause. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, the Clippers are a team that was very old. They're one of the oldest teams in the league. They finally started to realize that, like, hey, we need to get younger. You know, they're actively trying to trade Russell Westbrook at the moment. And I looked at their roster. I'm like, okay, you brought in Kevin Porter Jr. Why not bring in Miles Bridges? You know, you brought back Harden. You brought back Kawhi. They brought in Mo Bamba. So, like, obviously they're making moves for the future. It just, to me, was very baffling that I was like, wow, I'm like, they didn't go after Miles Bridges at all. Even the Cleveland Cavaliers had interest in Miles Bridges. And I do understand Miles Bridges did want to go back to Charlotte. Like, that was something that Miles Bridges did want. But I think he's a player that easily could have gotten about $80 million. Like, he's a guy that even if you paid him $100 million over 4 years, I think for the amount of upside that Miles Bridges actually has, that's not the end of the world. You know, there was a lot of times this past season where, you know, there was no LaMelo Ball, you know, and, you know, yeah, you had Brandon Miller out there, but there was a lot of times, right, for the Charlotte Hornets where you had Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller really doing their thing, and I didn't understand why the Hornets even let him hit free agency, because I was like, you know, a lot of people were talking about his domestic abuse charges and all this other stuff. All those charges got dropped. Like, there wasn't sufficient evidence to accuse him of domestic violence. So once that happened, I was like, yo, like, if the Pacers could jump on that, like, that would be a really big deal. Granted, after the Pascal Siakam contract offer, they didn't really have any cap space to play with really at all. But still, there's a lot of teams out there that I look at that are, like, struggling to put something good on the court. You know, I look at a team like Atlanta. I look at a team like the Chicago Bulls. I look at teams like the Washington Wizards. I look at teams like, you know, like, because Miles Bridges is a guy who can play the two. You know, granted, they have Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma, but Miles Bridges is a guy who's a bit of a scrappy defender. Yes, his percentages are a little bit lower than you would like them to be, but, like, there's just a lot of teams that I'm like, yo, like, Miles Bridges is a good player. Why is nobody bothering with this? And the idea that it was like 3 years, $75 million, I'm like, that's like, for him, to me, that's like right in, it's kind of in the ballpark of what he's worth. You know, even if you did end up overpaying him a little bit, right? Like, he's still a guy that I look at and I'm like, you know, he no matter where he goes, he's going to give you valuable minutes. Even if, like, Philly didn't end up landing Paul George, Miles Bridges would have been probably one of the next best things, either him or DeMar DeRozan. So it's just, to me, I didn't understand this. I really didn't. I didn't understand why there wasn't more teams out there on the market for him, especially the Brooklyn Nets. Like, they're another team. The Brooklyn Nets are a team that is old as shit. Like, most of their guys on their team are like 30 years old or older, and you just got rid of Mikal Bridges. You could have signed Miles Bridges for arguably maybe a cheaper contract, or in the ballpark or whatever you had Mikal Bridges to, and at least you got a guy who's 26, not a guy who's 28. Even Golden State, you lost Klay Thompson. Okay, maybe bring in Miles Bridges if you can. Portland's another team where it seems like they just have a conglomerate of talent and nobody that they know if they're gonna break out or not. Detroit is another team. So like there was a couple teams that were actually interested in him, but I look at it and I'm like, he's just too good of a player to have been in free agency that long. Like the Lakers. The Lakers are another team that it's like they're looking for young talent. You have a guy in Miles Bridges in free agency. Why not make a run at him? I don't know. To me, it seemed very odd that there wasn't more of a market for Miles Bridges than there actually was. Utah is a team that's been looking for a guy to really, really evolve at that 3 position. Granted, they have Lauri Markkanen, they have Walker Kessler, they have Colin Sexton. Adding Miles Bridges to that in Utah would have given you the young core you need. Utah was the one team I think that was maybe the most baffling. Utah was the one team that I was shocked the most that didn't go after him. Same thing with Dallas. Dallas really needs better wing play. There's just so many teams that I was shocked did not go after Miles Bridges, because he's a guy that I get that I understand why teams didn't want to go after him. Don't get me wrong, I understand it. You don't want a guy on your roster that's ever been accused of domestic violence. But when it comes to what he provides on the court, I'm like, he's a 20-point per game scorer. You know what I'm saying? And he's young. He's 26. He's a guy that you could sign to a 4-year deal, $100 million, and in a year and a half, 2 years, it's a bargain contract. You know what I'm saying? Even the big contracts that got signed this offseason, like Pascal Siakam and stuff like that. Like, even Pascal Siakam's contract in the next 2 or 3 years is going to be considered a bargain contract when you consider how much the CBA is going to keep going up. So, to me, it just seemed like it was baffling. It was very, very baffling. But you know what? He's going back to Charlotte. Charlotte has a good core together. I like the idea of LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller all being there. Mark Williams as well. The Hornets are a team that I think would maybe like to get a little bit better at that 4 position. But, when you consider just what Miles Bridges brings to the table on a basketball court, I was shocked. And it was crazy because Cleveland of all places was like, yeah, we want him. And I think that would have been a decent fit. But the thing is, Cleveland's already got too many mouths to feed on offense. But I don't know, man. Honestly, Miles Bridges is just one of those players that I would have liked to see go to someplace other than Charlotte. Mostly because I feel like once LaMelo Ball comes back, he's probably not going to get the same type of opportunity that he had this past season with LaMelo Ball being injured. Granted, they don't have Gordon Hayward anymore, and they also don't have Terry Rozier. So I will have to see what comes of that. But I'm excited and I'm happy for Miles Bridges at the same time. Miles Bridges is a player that I think is very, very underappreciated. I understand why people don't like him. I do, but as far as just a talent, I was like, yo, that's and the crazy, the idea that he's as talented as he is and the price point you could have got him at, to me was just like, why the fuck is nobody pursuing this guy? But he went back to Charlotte. Charlotte brought him back clearly. And to me, it's crazy because I think Charlotte let Miles Bridges hit free agency just to see what they thought he was worth, to see if he gets any other offers. And I think maybe he didn't get any other offers. If he did, I guess he just wanted to go back to Charlotte, but I didn't hear anything of anybody actually offering him any money. So I'm not really sure, but you know what? Good for Charlotte, man. They kept their core together. I understand maybe Miles Bridges feels like he maybe has to prove himself a little bit to Charlotte, especially after the domestic violence thing. I think maybe he feels that the next, this was a good contract for him, and if he wants anything more, he's probably going to have to earn that. But I have a feeling Miles Bridges has learned his lesson. Regardless of what happened, whether he did it or not, I understand the charges got dropped, but I think after all of this, he's learned his lesson, and I think he's going to be a great player for the Charlotte Hornets. And I like what the Charlotte Hornets are doing, man. Mark Williams is one of the best defensive young centers in the NBA. You got an MVP caliber point guard in LaMelo Ball if he can actually stay healthy. The guy's capable of putting up like a 30-point triple-double every night if you just give him the keys to the car. Brandon Miller was a guy that, for whatever reason, a lot of people were down on and showed a lot of promise last year. He was a guy I got him with my the very last pick in my fantasy draft on my ESPN Fantasy League this past year, and he was phenomenal for me. I think what I'm going to do this year, too, at some point, I'll make a video on this, if the camera will focus. I think what I'm going to do this year is make an ESPN league and let some of you guys get into it as well, because every year I played in this ESPN league and only like 2 or 3 people end up being active. So I think maybe this year with the NBA, before the opening day and once training camp gets over and preseason gets over or towards the end of it, maybe I'll do that, and some of you guys can join a league with me. There'll be, I think, 10 teams or 12 teams is the most that you can do. So it'll be first come, first serve, dog. When the video goes up, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's on you. I'll set a date for the draft and everything for everybody. Or maybe it'll be a Discord members only thing. I don't know. We'll see. I kind of want, like, now that memberships are available on my channel and stuff like that, I'm thinking like of maybe doing exclusive shit like that where like only members get to interact with me with like stuff like that, doing the fantasy draft, or maybe even like if you're an NFL fan, doing fantasy football with me in the league or something like that. So that's something else that I'm doing. Like I'm figuring shit out, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure out more things for like, you guys to do and stuff like that. I mean, now that I have channel membership things available, I haven't actually used it. But I've been thinking, like, how could I utilize that in a way that, is beneficial to you guys? So, I don't know, man. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm excited for the Charlotte Hornets. I am going to say that. I understand, people have their own opinions, like I said, of Miles Bridges at this point. But I think the kid has a lot of fucking talent. I think I think, like, in the next, like, I'm going to be honest, Miles Bridges baseline is going to be an all-star at some point. One of these days he like the first time he makes it, it'll probably be as a reserve because somebody gets injured. But he's a guy that if he goes to the right situation and they make him a number 1 or number 2 option, he could be really, really good. I mean, I kind of can't believe I'm saying this, but I think he's a better player than Michael Porter Jr. already. And Michael Porter Jr.'s contract is fucking ridiculous. Just as far as like a guy who's just a complete player, is maybe not as lanky as Michael Porter Jr., but he's a way better defender than Michael Porter Jr. I think he's, a more aggressive scorer than Michael Porter Jr. is. Michael Porter Jr. has become kind of a prototypical catch and shoot guy who's getting paid a shit ton of money. And I think Miles Bridges is legitimately a better player than him. And I'm probably going to get cooked for that take, and that's perfectly fine. But that's just my opinion. That's just what I've seen of Miles Bridges. He's not a more efficient player than Michael Porter Jr. I will concede to that. Michael Porter Jr. is, I think, a more efficient scorer than Miles Bridges is. But as far as a guy who's willing to, like, rally a team, put a team on his back, like, Miles Bridges just has better leadership qualities than Michael Porter Jr. does. And I think that's what's going to be the difference between him and, like, a lot of the other young guys in the league. Like, Miles Bridges is not afraid to, like, go downhill, put his head, his nose to the grindstone and fucking go. And that's why I like Miles Bridges so much, is he's not afraid of shit. So I don't know, man. We'll have to wait and see. But tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more. I'm the Fast Break Report, and I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.